Welcome to the Ruffells ad break, the first of the Ruffells Roughcasts. I'm Tim McInnes, Managing Director. In this podcast, we dig into how the creatives we work with get the most out of every brief to deliver best results for you. This episode is a little different. My business partner Harley Williams and I have a chat about how we work and why, and we give some examples of how we have had good and less good outcomes. We talk about why best customer experience comes from being organised, and being organised goes two ways. We talk about why, if you don't understand something about the process, it's super important to put your hand up and ask. But less from me and more from Harley. And me.
I know this already, dude.
Ad break. Didn't even need to show it to you.
Yeah.
Ruffells ad break.
This is a little bit different to usual in as much as it's you and me, and we own the business.
Well, we bought the business in 2012.
Yeah, but we've worked together since.
Yeah, 2005, I think we worked.
5?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
I thought, over that time, not just you and me, but we've worked with a whole heap of people, and so what I thought was quite interesting is, well, I don't know if it's interesting because whenever I hear myself talk, I get bored pretty quickly.
Me too.
Thanks.
I know of me.
But it has been a long run, and we've dealt with a lot of people, both clients and crew, and people who have come and gone from the industry or who have left. A lot of people obviously start in Christchurch and then move to Auckland or Melbourne or London or wherever it is that they move. But one of the things that I thought would be potentially of interest is talking about how we work. And I think fundamentally you and I probably have a pretty similar value set, which is treat people fairly, always have open and frank conversations, whether they're comfortable or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not. But we've learned a few things along the way, and I thought it would just be interesting to talk about that. So I think one of the things that is important for what we do is start at the end of the process, understand what the outputs are and where people are putting things, and then go back to the beginning and fill in, the pathway there. So
Yeah, for sure.
what do you think is the most important thing about producing good work?
The most important thing?
Yeah.
The word clear communication come to mind first and foremost.
What does it mean though?
It means describing as best you can what you want to achieve from creating a video. And that must apply to anything that you would go and, you go to a hairdresser and they say, how would you like your hair cut? And you go, just like sides, trim, thanks. And then you end up with a pretty bung haircut. I know because I've done it.
You really have.
Yeah, I really have. But if you say, I want to have the short back and sides, I want to have this, my hair dyed pink on, this side of my head, and, explained exactly what you want, then you're obviously going to get something that's closer to what you hope for in your initial idea.
Or if you go to somebody who's clearly really good at what they do and you communicate what the outcome is that you want, then you would hope that, you might not steer them through every step of the haircut, so to speak.
Sure. But
at the end, you'd probably be reasonably happy with the outcome.
You'd hope so. And I think also, overall, that's kind of like the best piece of advice I think I would give. But also, I think understand the process in relation to video production. I think the more you understand, the better you're going to communicate your idea, essentially, and get the result. And I think understanding the pre-production, production, and post-production phases, I think, is really important for anyone hoping to make a video.
But I think with that comes some problems sometimes, because sometimes people go, oh, well, I filmed this great thing. My mate was on a wakeboard and he did a sick jump and I filmed it in slow motion on my iPhone.
Yeah.
That comes with some problems sometimes, right? Because people assume that because they happen to capture a really amazing thing, that it was easy to do so. I remember one time went and took a series of stills for a client, and we were away for a couple of days, and we were up and down the country. And at the end of it, they said, just not feeling it. And I was like, well, that's fine, but basically you didn't want to allocate any real time or budget to it, and you wanted to hope that because there was somebody turn up with expensive equipment that would sort of be enough. But that's not enough.
I think what you're trying to describe there is experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like those people, and I like all respect to those people, because I think it's awesome if you can get out there and do it yourself, and it's a really good feeling when you can do something yourself.
Yeah.
But if you lack that experience, then you're probably not going to quite achieve the outcome you hope for, and probably will be left a little bit dumbfounded as to why, because you don't have that experience or the knowledge that it takes to get to that point where you can just come and do it, and create something.
Experience and clear communication leads towards a successful outcome, right?
Definitely.
So if you can show and demonstrate what the value is, what people are paying for, let them know that this is the process and this is going to be what you build for it, then it leads to a better experience generally.
For sure.
What about, the brief matters, right? So we adapted a brief which we call the briefing brief.
The briefing brief,
so that our clients can take that and then get really clear on what the ask is.
Yeah.
Because if they know what they're asking, then and they can communicate it to us who have no idea about what their product or service is, then we're going to have a hell of a lot better chance of explaining and communicating that via whatever channel, because we're obviously not experts in what other businesses do, right?
Yeah.
And so as part of that brief, it's also a really good moment for those clients to step back and sort of assess what it is that they really want to do with their marketing spend. And you were saying also that there was a project which way back when, I think 15, 16 years ago, where there were a whole lot of extra hours got spent putting into it because it was a sort of a misestimation, and we covered it wasn't, we weren't the owners at that time, but we covered all of the overrun on that, but it was just an experience thing. With that brief, it goes both ways, right? So the client gets really clear on what it is they're asking for, but we get really clear on all of the parts that we're going to have to bring together in order to deliver that.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a fair assessment of what a brief, why a brief is so important?
I think so too. Just thinking about it, then it's going to eliminate the potential for bringing up questions that could have been asked earlier in an uncompromising position, such as when you're literally shooting the thing. If that's the brief will be great for that reason, and I think it's good.
Well, we've shot a campaign and fulfilled the requirements from clients in the past, and they've gone, hold on, that doesn't work how I expected it to. It's like, but we've fulfilled the brief that you requested from us. I said, but I don't think it works. And so, what do? You either, say, well, tough, here's the invoice.
Tough cookies.
But then that's not going to work out, right? That's, so you find a solution, but it can be very frustrating. And I suppose it shows a lack of experience when that happens, but then also it's on us to make sure that it's a really clear conversation, that everybody knows what they're getting into. And if they don't understand the process, to put their hand up and ask.
And we're here to service the client when, so we, and we want to get good reviews. So we want to succeed as much as the client does.
Absolutely.
So the more sort of questions that get answered at the start and asked is going to be hugely beneficial.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's really important about when a client briefs us in is, where's it going? Who's the target market? Who are we talking to? Sometimes I think that it's really easy to put our own personalities, be subjective rather than objective, and actually as marketers, the role is really to go, who are we talking to? What channels are we delivering on? What are the outputs? And then how do we bring either our tactical campaign or our brand message to whatever piece of work that is? And so I think that's a really important thing, because often you'll say, okay, so what have we got? We've got 90-second hero, 2 15-second cut downs, a billboard, I don't know, an MREC, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit like a script for a play or a movie, or in this instance, maybe like a script for a brand promotional video. You can't decide, write it all out and then get the voiceover read and expect it all to work. You have to go back and cull and be succinct and shorten things to make them, relatable and work.
I mean, that's what we'd do. They give us the brief, we go and write the script, we give them the version that we think is going to work. Then they can come back and people can make changes, or, because again, it's also about that. It's a partnership, right? So we can't know exactly the key words unless they're given to us.
You want to get the script right in the pre-production phase, not the post-production phase, because, we might not even have the pictures to put into it if you want to change it later, because we've shot it for all that. So as a video editor, first and foremost, I often see that mistake. I see that mistake happening a lot of the time. It's kind of like, well, we can fix it in post. It's a classic saying that's been around for many years.
A lot of stuff you can change in post.
Yeah, totally. The more you get right in the pre-production phase, the better everything's going to be.
Absolutely. 50% at least is pre-production.
Absolutely.
Of any project.
I reckon,
At least. What about being organised? You had we had a client who came in. I didn't have to do any of it. I mean, he was fantastic, but it was a post-production job. And he came in and he said, look, basically, this is what I've got. Here's the budget. Here's what I need from it. I think it was 4 videos or something like that.
Yeah, about that.
I'm going to film them. So they're not going to be amazing, but I don't have a big budget, so I'm going to do that.
It's very realistic.
And then came in, he storyboarded it, gave you time code. I mean, how did that?
Storyboarded it? More or less kind of storyboarded it. Gave me all the graphics and video and any other extra audio that I might have needed, labeled very specifically, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, slide 1, 2, 3, 4. And same with the video, had almost already kind of cut it out before I'd even got it. And it was a matter of just piecing it together. And it was very straightforward and easy. And I love that job because for 2 reasons. It was easy. It's nice to have an easy job here and there. I love challenging jobs. That's pretty much what I turn up to work for anyway. But it's nice to have a little easy job between challenging jobs. But secondly, because this person was super organised and realised that the whole process would be a lot easier for him and me, but especially for him, if he was super organised and, had done the groundwork in advance. And, I feel like that's the kind of client that, that you kind of dream of almost, And it was just a very small, straightforward job. It wouldn't have been that hard anyway.
Yep.
But, I just have a lot of respect for people who actually take things like that seriously, because you want that as a client. I want my video to be seen and heard and to produce a result. And if you don't do the groundwork, don't expect the results.
And isn't it funny, because that wasn't a big budget job and yet it was really satisfying?
Yeah.
It was satisfying because we were able to deliver exactly what the client wanted, and the client was stoked.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Paid for the time and for the value.
Yep.
And the output was exactly what was, it was on or above expectation, We cannot possibly know everything that our clients know about their business. We can't, right? Unless we've spent a very long time. And some things you can assume, but you don't know what happens in a boardroom. You don't know the conversations that happen around a shift in direction or any of that kind of stuff, unless you're in those meetings. And sometimes we are, and then we can help inform what those outputs are. But a lot of the time, it's about service. It's about producing a particular campaign or a particular project. But again, it comes down to the more information, the clearer it is, the clearer it's delivered, the clearer the brief is, the better the job that we can do. There are probably a couple of clients who come to mind when I think about partnerships, and they're kind of quite different. So if I think about farm focus, so agricultural company as software, they basically said, we need our story to be told in a compelling way, right? And so they said, what do we do? And so we had that, well, I think we had sort of a couple of Zoom meetings or Teams meetings or something. And then we went up and sort of pitched this idea, more or less.
But you went away and did a lot of homework.
A lot of
research,
homework.
A lot of research,
Yep.
a lot of homework.
Yep. Pulled together examples from the past. And, I think at that point I said, hey, what have we done in this sort of space? What can you think of? And we went and pulled sort of files from the bank.
Yeah.
And then we went, okay, well, we're telling the story, which is over 40 years. And so let's add some nostalgic. So the aesthetic, we talked about that right from the beginning, about how do you reckon we could do this? And then you went, hey, what about this idea? And
a lot of groundwork.
Pulled all the parts. A lot of pre-production.
A lot of pre-production. Yeah.
Even just to get to the pitch,
Yeah, totally.
Like you almost
the pre-production.
Yeah, you almost have to. You have to be able to see
pitch
it.
Production, pitch pre-production.
You have to be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
Before you can.
Yeah,
before
you've got
you
to
can
be
tell
able
the
to
story.
feel it.
The partnership piece, I think, with those guys was that we were brought in from previous experience, where we had done achieved some pretty amazing results within an environment which was less than traditional, I suppose. And so it was obvious that we could pull it out of the hat. They worked just as hard as we did to ensure that everything we needed to have a successful outcome was given to us.
Yeah. What that tells me is that they really cared about their product. They really gave a shit. They really wanted their product to succeed, and they had a lot. They were passionate about their product.
Yep.
And I think if you're like that, then you're going to want to try and help someone like us make your product or service or whatever stand out from the crowd.
Make it sing.
Yeah.
The other one was Angel Bay, and so and that was far deeper. So we're inside that, building the brand up. We brought in some consultants who were really switched on, really savvy. Built the brand up, brought it together, and we consolidated the efforts. And then we built a social strategy, and we built a brand strategy, and tone of voice and brand narrative, and then activations like trailers and food shows and NPD projects. And we brought on a whole raft of video assets and for recipes, for SEO, for billboards, bus backs, Emmerich's, wobblers, you name it. We did a whole heap of brand work and activation work. And it was interesting because in that partnership, yes, we sort of, we were given access to a much broader range of activities to do, but we were also involved in shaping and crafting and having that breadth of access to the vision, the big picture meant that we could integrate all of our efforts, and that would then amplify the output.
Yeah, and it's planning too. It's strategizing what channel and that's going to get released on, or channels, usually channels, and when that's going to get released on, for how long, and how many of these little assets can we take out of this one big chunk? How many pieces of this cake can we allocate to all the guests? So it's kind of it's a different world really now in terms of from when we first started back in the days of just TV was it.
One thing that I think is I keep going on about is that our clients will always know their business better than we do. They live it. They are inside it.
You would hope so.
You would definitely hope so.
Yeah.
But I think even though that is the case, sometimes what they need is, and Andy Spargo mentioned this in his podcast.
Spargo.
He said it's about pulling the lens back and looking at the same thing from a different perspective.
Yeah, I can imagine. If you know your business so well, after a certain amount of years, living and breathing it, then you wouldn't think about certain things. Certain things would be second nature, and someone might ask you a question that you know the answer to but haven't thought about in a long time.
I think that's also sometimes when we assume a certain amount of information. And I think sometimes clients can, outwardly, they can appear to know the process, or they can be quite confident in their delivery of information. And so you assume, I've definitely done this, I've assumed in the past that they probably know more about the process than they do. And so perhaps haven't asked them the questions that might help the process as well.
True.
So
Yeah.
I think we all get a bit close to what it is that we do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it's really important with what we do that clients take risks. And there is, I mean, I'm happy to do the work.
Calculated.
I closed
risks.
my eyes when I said this. So I'm clearly not actually happy doing this, but I will do this. If a client's really firm on what they want, I will, make every effort to do the very best version of the thing that they want. But often what I find is that clients who desperately want this particular thing have seen that their competitor is doing that thing and they want their version of it. But they effectively want the same thing because they like what their competitor was doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's usually the right answer. I think ordinarily being different to the competitors is the thing that helps give you visibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
And so calculated risks.
Calculated risks. Yep.
Pushing the boat out a little bit.
Yep.
And there's a lot of evidence to support that. There's a lot of data-based marketing, which is coming out at the moment, sort of the science behind the colouring in department, which has sort of always been lacking, which basically supports that you have to take risks, you have to use characters, you have to, if you want to be truly memorable, you have to give somebody something to remember.
Yeah.
You have to remark on, to be remarkable.
Yeah.
And so can you think of any jobs which, I mean, they might have been a bit Burko, but anything which you've really enjoyed over the years because of it? I mean, I think immediately of My Tax.
Yep, that was fun. Oh, God. There's honestly been so many. And I think I'm just going to have to say what I believe to be true.
Go on then. I think people would be disappointed if you didn't.
Yeah, well, there's a few reasons for the reason why why I like this job a lot. And so recently we did a new product release series of short 15 to 20 second promotional videos for web. They weren't for like TV or anything, and it was for the castles, special release cans. And that's kind of, the castles are right around the corner to us, and they've been part of my family, and I've been part of their family for quite some time. So any opportunity that I get to do something for the castles is always a little bit good for me. But also the artwork that was given to me was from my good friend Scott Jackson, and he is an amazing guy. I love him to bits. I haven't seen him in way too long. It's crazy. And also my lovely ex-partner Zoe created all the assets for me. So it was kind of like a little bit of a family job, and it's kind of sentimental, I guess. It was a sentimental sort of job for me. However, I got to make some pretty wild shit with the stuff that I got, and that was really cool. And I created all the animation and all the sound effects and the layers upon layers of sound effects. And if you have a look at Scott's artwork, it's pretty psychedelic. It's out there. It's not like you know what it's like. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. I just get to kind of do anything I want with this.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when it came in, and that's why I said the Monty Python reference, because I've been watching quite a lot of Monty Python at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's just nothing like that, those sort of crazy animations. And I thought to myself, is this client going to be brave enough to do something Burko with this? And I was like, of course they are. The artwork supports it, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then you just sat in your dark little room getting weird.
Yeah, getting weird. Yeah, totally. It was a great opportunity to kind of, it's cool. I get a plethora of different clients and clients' work, and some is very commercial and is very kind of straightforward and easy and simple and effective, but it's not challenging for me. Sometimes it's not challenging, and this is just life, right?
And you've done hundreds of jobs like that, so you kind of know all of the bits very quickly.
Yeah. And but then there's other jobs. No job is the same, even though sometimes it can be exactly the same duration. No job is exactly the same. And so at this point, when I got that job for the Castles, it was a really good point for me where I could just kind of cut loose and just do whatever I wanted to, and get that kind of like crazy mad shit out of my system. I don't want to get it out of my system. I want to keep that shit, to be honest. But it was a good opportunity to do something like that. Yeah. And
they worked really well. They're great.
Yeah, they worked really well, and my kids love them.
Yeah, well, there you go. Kids love them.
Yeah, kids love them.
Yeah. I really enjoyed My Tax. I think it was interesting because when I was pitching that line, Money on Your Mind, the original reaction to it was don't like
Money on your mind.
Money on your mind.
Money on your mind.
So it was a bit of it was not well received. But then, I knew Shay was the guy, and I know we cast a lot of people for that role, but I knew that he had this little piece of magic, and I think that's 20 years of casting people, right? Of working with on-screen talent and actors who, you can see who does what for what role. But when it all came together, and Shay turned up, and he would on set he would say things like, "Hey, how about I do this take inside that rubbish bin?" Inside a wheelie bin, and you sort of think to yourself, this is so removed from the head of Auckland Transport talking on camera about why infrastructure is important. And so while that's a really important job, and I'm really happy to tell that story of infrastructure, having this spicy little ginger in a blue suit, questionable moustache, saying, "How about I do this take from a rubbish bin?" And take after take after take after take of people rolling around laughing. I thought, oh, this is really cool. And then stick to your guns. That Money on Your Mind works. Stick to it, fight for it, and it turned out being super successful. So
it did.
So that was.
And everyone had a good time.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, we who wants to go to work for it to suck?
I think if you're willing to take calculated risks, then you're going to get some payback. But that said, it's totally cool if you know that you just want to do something very simple, and it's just for this specific reason, for this specific market at this specific time. That's totally cool too. There's so many options and opportunities with creating video, but why not go big if you can? And big doesn't mean spending $1 gazillion.
No, it doesn't.
It means a really good idea. And that's it. So.
Build a miniature in studio.
Build a miniature. Be
a bit more adventurous with what the options are, and and back the team that you've chosen to
back the team. And have fun while you're doing it as well.
Thanks, Harley. I'm having fun.
Oh, okay. High five.
You didn't have to say the high five.
Oh,